Sam, episode 39. I have never seen this many people on our screen before. This is a little daunting, intimidating. What's the word?
Crazy. It's gonna let's just shoot for low chaos on this one.
Low chaos? Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
think we'll be fine. We got a bunch of really smart folks on here. I'm excited to have everybody on. So, episode 39, welcome everybody. We are going to talk about YOUTH.SEC.CON. So, if you don't know what that is, by the end of this, you will know what that is. So we've got a lot of people on here. I'm actually going to let everybody kind of introduce themselves, y'all. If you listen to our podcast, you know us, Michael and Sam. Arthi's been on here before, but Arthi, why don't you let everybody know what you're doing these days? Give them a quick, short bio.
Sure. Thanks for having me again in HOU.SEC Cast. So my journey with the HOU.SEC.CON started a few years ago when I was an attendee, and then I was inspired to write a children's book on cybersecurity. Then I was inspired again to write a second book on cybersecurity. That followed to my inspiration to partner with HOU.SEC.CON to present to you YOUTH.SEC.CON, and we'll talk more about that. But yes, in addition to being a cybersecurity professional in Texas, I also love to educate kids on cybersecurity, and it's a pleasure to be here today.
We're excited to have you. Love having you on always. So I think this is your second time. Let's keep going. Let's do third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So Reynaldo Gonzalez, also we call you Ray.
Yep.
Ray, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody on here? Tell them how you're getting involved in YOUTH.SEC.CON as well.
Yep, definitely. So thank you, Sam and Michael and Mary for having us here, and Arthi too. So this is actually my first time in the HOU.SEC cast. So this is a great opportunity to really share and be part of a great community. So the way I got into this, I've done education teaching for many years now, and just my kids just growing up. I'm trying to get them to be more in tune with cybersecurity. And then I had met Arthi at a conference before. We got to talking, and I heard about she was doing some kind of like education stuff for the kids, doing something, and then I find out that we actually live really close to each other in the same community. So when we kind of expressed some interest, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, like I want to do this kind of training community for parents and kids on internet safety," and I got involved with her there to help support that, along with another individual, and we had a pretty good turnout. And just talking some more, we just realized, we had some, things in common aside from what we do in our professional work career on the cybersecurity side, in a very similar space, have very similar interests. So then this conversation came up about doing this YOUTH.SEC.CON, and we talked about it, and she also kind of brought me on board, like to help support it. So very happy to be here and be part of this.
Very cool. And you're teaching up at Lone Star, correct?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, I've been there teaching as an adjunct professor. So since end of 2011, and I started with the networking side, went into cybersecurity, and just doing cyber and ethical hacking right now.
Awesome. Yeah. For those who don't know, Texas is the Lone Star State. We've got a community college district here called the Lone Star District. That it's my alma mater. Also, I have an associate's degree from there. Way back was where I met my wife as well. So, got a lot of good history there. So, thank you for being on, Ray. Excited to hear what you have to say about YOUTH.SEC.CON. And then we have one of our own, Mary. Mary is our program manager here at HOU.SEC.CON and runs all of our events. Obviously, a very busy person, and she's putting all the logistics together. How are you doing, Mary?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So why don't you give a quick background on yourself and where you came from, and kind of why you're excited about this as well.
Yeah, sure. So I was an educator for 13 years. I taught junior high and high school history, Texas history and U.S. history. And then Lauren, our VP of operations, is a good friend of mine and reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have this really great job for you. I think you'd be amazing at it." Met you guys, took on the job, and then we started talking about YOUTH.SEC.CON and how we can, now I can utilize all of my connections in the high school and the school districts to put out this amazing program and continue to work with kids in education and helping them, kickstart their career. So I'm really excited to be a part of this.
And by the way, Lauren was right. You've done a great job. You've been
Thank you.
killing it. You have only been here a few months and you've already taken this going. So I'm really awesome. Sam and I are very excited to have you on board and helping run this. So
Thank you.
And I think I speak for both of us that Michael and I feel like we're probably just like high schoolers in terms of having to rein us in and keep
Oh,
us in
yeah.
line. So yeah, it probably
feel like
worse. So
maybe more
anyway,
like kindergartners.
yeah.
I was gonna
Okay.
say 7th graders, like it's fine.
Oh gosh. Yeah, we've talked about it. 7th graders are the craziest ones sometimes. So
They really
yep.
are, but that's okay. We love them anyway.
Yeah, same here. Same here. So awesome. So all right, let's talk about YOUTH.SEC.CON then. So Sam, you and I early on, since we've been running HOU.SEC.CON since what 2010. So we kind of talked about it, I don't know, a few years ago about doing some more stuff with kids. We saw some efforts that some of the larger conferences have done, like DEF CON Kids, things like that. And we're like, man, that would be really cool to get a lot of the youth here in the Houston area and surrounding to be involved. And so we toyed with the idea for a while, but we just never took the next step. I wonder why. Maybe because we didn't have all these great people.
Well, yeah, I mean, doing this, obviously for a long time it was just you and me, and it's a lot of work. And so it's daunting to try to take on yet another awesome idea and an important idea. And so I think this is one of the more exciting times of our growth is being able to add this to, our repertoire. But also, if you'll remember, we've had some of our attendees that have been coming for a long time that bring their kids. We brought our kids. Our kids both worked at. They were checking people in. They were picking locks. Both my kids know how to pick locks now, thanks to Lock Sport, and it was awesome. Well, what I did with mine is I sent mine in. I said, I'm taking you out of school, but I'm also going to make you go sit in a couple sessions and you need to come back and tell me what you learned. Right. And so it really got, them interested and intrigued. And now they went different routes. But point is, I think you and I both saw, the opportunity to try to get these kids interested and incented to come in and join.
Yep. And I think last year was really kind of that, maybe 2 years ago, but last year was kind of the one that really got us excited about it because we saw, which I thought was extremely creative. We had one attendee bring his kids and send them out to go collect stamps from the vendors so he could win a prize. I thought that was perfect. So it's a great, little use of hacking with the kids. We've had people's kids come out and do the capture the flag and do quite well at that and learn. So that's always been there in the back of our heads. But then I think, and she's probably not going to want to admit this, but the magic happened when Arthi came out and said she wanted to put the book out. And we had Arthi on the podcast, and we've put stuff out about this before as like history. But Arthi, why don't you kind of tell the story of what we talked about on that podcast when we were talking about your book? And maybe we can get Lauren to put a link to the clip where we literally talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah, first of all, you're being too kind and giving me more credit than I deserve. But again, see, one thing that's common with all of us and Lauren, who's backstage right now, right, is that in addition to what we do in our daily lives, we want to bring early exposure to kids, right, kids and high schoolers on cybersecurity, which people tend to think it's very complex. So they're like, no, it's too much, and I don't have the patience to explain to my kids. So let them learn it when. And two things happen, right? Especially with the advent of Gen AI. Look at the sudden transition on all the dangers to both like the critical infrastructure, right? The enterprise network as well as at homes. But we're just taking things for granted because we don't see those threats, right? They're like invisible digital threats. So I feel the timing is actually perfect. Yes, you both had a lot on your plate all these years, but the timing of YOUTH.SEC.CON is perfect with the sudden transition and evolution of Gen AI and all that, and how it's impacting the cyber threat landscape, and us wanting to bring kids up to speed on what's going on. So to that end, like I said, Cyberama, I don't think could have been born if I was not inspired from all the energizing educational informative sessions at HOU.SEC.CON. And Cyberama 2 is about securing the critical infrastructure. It is about OT security. So one book on IT security, one book on OT security. But why this, right? And just like you all, I did this in my free time, lots of late nights, but the goal is the same. How can we teach not only cybersecurity concepts, but also cyber ethics to our kids? And that is exactly why we wanted to do something that's a mix of theory and hands-on for YOUTH.SEC.CON. So again, very excited to partner. And just so you know, audience, a lot of efforts are being happening in the background. We're talking to a lot of people, making sure we bring the best to your kids and the high schoolers that are going to attend. So please grab a spot today.
Yep, I agree. Well, thank you, Arthi. I mean, that when we talked about that early on in your podcast when you came on and getting that was a lot of that same discussion, like the importance of getting youth educated in it and just getting them into the industry, getting them interested in the industry just in general, so they can even do some exploration and figuring out what it's all about. To that point, Ray, I know you told some of your story and how you connected with Arthi. But as an educator, you're not in high school, but you're in community college. You're literally, some people joke and say it's like, 13th and 14th grade, right? But it's continuing that education. And as the kids mature, talk about how this is important to you from the high school to the college age kids.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I can relate to this. When I was in high school myself, I first got introduced into the concept of networking and like CCNA and Cisco and those areas. And I had some good teachers. And I learned a lot of the theory, a lot of the concepts of the technical skills and how you do certain things and how you implement or configure the stuff in the network. But what I didn't have was some kind of practical or field experience. Like it was difficult to understand, okay, I'm learning about this, but how does it apply? Like what does this mean in the real world? So kind of connecting that dots of what you learned to something in the industry was not there. So it took me a while to kind of get used to it and understand. And I spent, a lot of years, through my, ever since I was a freshman, sophomore in high school, I started learning networking, got into it in college, and I learned all these concepts. But until I actually had a job in that field, like, oh, so now I know why this is and why we do this and this. So taking that approach, when I started teaching in 2011, I realized, well, you know what? It would be helpful if I can bring in some of that practical experience, industry experience to the education piece to help students understand, hey, you're learning this because it does this, but here's how you can apply it and what it means in the real world, and taking that approach. So, and I think that's something that I didn't quite have in my education, and trying to give this to the students sooner in high school, I think would really help them so they can really figure out, okay, I like this field, or I mentioned this area. Here's some practical hands-on approach of what it means and how to apply it. And it can give them some guidance on where they want to focus in their path of education or try different things. So I just think having that kind of practical approach was really helpful that I didn't have, but I want to help give to other students.
Yep. I think that's what I've always found pretty amazing about the adjunct professors in colleges, because most of the time they have practical experience in whatever field they're in. The college that I ultimately got my bachelor's degree from, Laterna, was all about bringing in people who actually had experience in the different classes that they taught, and having that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I love that idea of giving them that practical experience and letting them see what paths they can take. So now, Mary, you've got an education background, like you talked about, middle school, high school. Talk about how you see this as being important to any of your high schoolers that you dealt with when you were in, even middle schoolers.
Yeah, so I had the honor of teaching AP kids in a school district where we had a career and technology center. And I was unaware until I took this job that they actually have a cybersecurity program. And I have several students, former students, who are in that program now. And I kind of was talking to them a little bit about it before I left. And they're like, "Oh, I'm in the career center pathways, but I just don't know. There's a lot out there, but I just don't know what I'm going to do with that if I want to go further. We have this great teacher, and they're teaching us these skills. I just don't know what my next step is." And so then when we, got started talking about YOUTH.SEC.CON, I was really excited to be able to share that with my students and be like, "Hey, here's this really great opportunity for you guys to come out and not only have that hands-on practical experience that Ray was talking about, that is so important, but also those soft skills that these high schoolers are kind of struggling to learn right now. How to network, how to go up and speak to someone about career paths or what you're looking for in a career. And then just getting into a conference like experience. It's completely different than any college fair or something they've probably gone to, right? You're meeting with vendors, but you're also wanting to network yourself and put yourself out there. And so I think it's just been a really eye-opening experience for me, and how I can take that background that I have and those connections to really reach out to those students in those school districts that are offering this. And within the state of Texas, there's actually an even bigger push for this, because campuses and school districts get ranked for college and career readiness. So for every kid that we can reach out to and get to be a part of this program within the districts, that helps the districts, really boost their network, get those kids those certifications, and get them ready for the real world.
I love that background. The kids that get excited and don't know, but the soft skills thing is extremely important. I mean, that's what we've always talked about, and we'll get into like what the agenda is and who we're targeting for this and everything else here in just a bit. But that soft skills, I mean, they haven't been exposed to that. High schoolers have been exposed to what other high schoolers. I mean, right? It's like getting outside your comfort zone and talking. I mean, not to say high school is exactly comfortable. I didn't enjoy it all that much, but but generally it's like how do you learn outside your peer group? How do you talk to people outside your peer group? I think that's very important. I think the excitement of just being, I mean, I know I'm biased, but I think HOU.SEC.CON's a lot of fun. And getting in there and going to the village and being exposed to those things is going to be a lot of fun for them, I think. So, well, thank you, Mary. So let's jump into why YOUTH.SEC.CON, why we're doing this. What makes it important for in the timing wise, kind of what you were talking about, Arthi? Why I know we're HOU.SEC.CAST and HOU.SEC.CON. I mean, we cover a national audience. We've got people that come over from all over the United States. But from a specificity in Houston, like from a location geographical perspective, a lot of people don't realize that Houston, and we've talked about it in a lot of our podcasts, Sam and I have, but a lot of people don't realize how many startups in cyber and IT in general we have here in Houston. So we've got like the Ion Center with Jesse and all those guys downtown that have a lot of startup incubator space in the cyber and in IT in general, all the SaaS type of vendors that are for all kinds of different purposes that are here in Houston. So there's a lot of that going on in Houston. People don't know about what previously was Alert Logic, which is now Fortress, was started here in Houston. You had Gray Logs here in Houston. We've got Authenticate with Chad Spinsky, a partner to the conference that is here in Houston. So there's a lot of cyber startups here. We've got VC and those type of like angel investors here in Houston. And then now we've got big old Apple coming here to put in some money and jobs and everything in the space. I mean, they're building out here as well. Houston's a great place for business. It's a great place for startups. Texas in general is a very friendly company or friendly state to companies that are trying to start up. And it's just a great place to be, honestly. And we have a whole lot of discussions around that. Sam, what's your take on that?
Well, yeah, and don't forget HP, by the way, which is headquartered here, right? So, which you and I both worked at one point. Um, the other issue is obviously the skills gap, right? Just not having enough folks. I mean, this has been a discussion for years, right? We don't have enough people filling the roles. Well, hey, here's something that's going to compound that. And regardless of what you think of where that number sits, of how many roles need to be filled, reality is people are aging out. This is not, if you think about it, like all of us here for the most part, or at least I know you and I, right, from an age perspective, been doing this for a long time. And I would probably count us towards maybe the second generation, from the whole hacking, beginnings, if you will, from a Stoll's cuckoo's egg to, where we are today. But we're not going to be doing this forever, and we need to backfill, those positions, that are coming out. But we are also, the other thing that's happening is people, as they get into the industry, they're progressing in their careers. Well, that also leaves a gap, right? So as people climb the ladder and do other things and get more specialized in certain areas, they're leaving behind other roles that need to be filled with new folks. So if we're not reaching out to youth and making them aware that this is a career opportunity, that this is something that they can follow a very lucrative path for, and understand all the challenges and stuff that come with that. But that's what we're here to help with, right? Is with between the conference and the YOUTH.SEC.CON and everything else. It's just something that we need to address, and this is a good way of starting it early, because usually we learned about these things in college, not necessarily in the school K-12 type thing. And by the way, I've tried to early on when my kids were young, try to go to career day. Apparently, if you're not a cop or a firefighter, you're not as hot of a topic for the classes to listen to. But hopefully that'll change soon. And I think books like Arthi did are a big turn in that direction, right? Which piques their interest and gets them interested on their own.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Yeah, for some reason we don't, thrill anybody when we're talking about technical stuff versus, doing other cool stuff. But so great segue to Arthi. So Arthi, you talked about Gen AI and that kind of stuff earlier about how that's affecting our industry and all industries. But in general, how do you see YOUTH.SEC.CON helping kids and helping youth get into this industry, helping them in ready for the market?
And so, Sam, I did, when I went to my kids' school for the career day thing, I started with who loves hacking or who's intrigued by hacking. So kids still find the word hacking cool, and then slowly bring them on to, so be a hacker, but hack for the good, right? Anyway, so we still have some leeway there, but you're right. We need to up the glamour on the whole cyber thing. So kids dream of pursuing careers. So I was trying to channel my thoughts in three areas, right? So number one, exposure to different types of fields in cyber, right? So in YOUTH.SEC.CON, we will have real industry professionals from various backgrounds in cyber talk about, like, if you want to be a SOC analyst, like reviewing logs and reports, or do you want to go perform like hands-on penetration testing or cybersecurity assessment, or in the area of vulnerability management, or do you want to grow in the leadership area and want to be a chief information security officer one day? Or to your point, like Chad, do you want to get into the entrepreneur space and do a cyber startup and employ, right? So, and or you want to be a product manager like me, right? Or a principal architect like Ray. There are so many areas in cyber, which I think we all agree. We came to know like way late in the game, right? So what if we had early exposure? So at least kids can plan, because we all know there is no right or wrong or one way to get into the field of cyber. Like, how many of us get asked that question a lot every week? How do I get into cyber? I don't know. There's not one right or wrong way. You can start with like CCNA, CompTIA Plus certifications, or you can start building some small projects yourself, or start doing volunteer work. But to what Mary also mentioned, even if it's one day camp, attending this YOUTH.SEC.CON will give kids exposure, that head start, right? For both job readiness and college application readiness. So they will know that, okay, I at least have a sense of what I want. So let me start early on what credits I want to focus, which will get me to that path 5 years down the lane or something like that. So I think that experience is very valuable. And to what Mary mentioned earlier, just talking with your fellow high schoolers to understand and that might spark another idea. So they're like, oh, actually, that's a good path I want to take, right? Or this could be start of finding mentors at YOUTH.SEC.CON, which kids can, and through their parents, they can take it afterwards and slowly build that mentorship pipeline as well. So yeah, both in, like I said, in terms of exposure to various areas in cyber, which kids will get to learn, and readiness for college applications, and in general leadership, right? What it takes to run an event like that. I'm inspired, so I want to do something. I want to go back to my school and talk about cyber. To, 10 years later, I want to come back and lead YOUTH.SEC.CON in different parts of the United States or the world. So yeah, again, this could be start of something much, much bigger, and we're super excited.
And one of the things I find interesting is we talk about all the paths that are in cyber and the technical side of it and the non-technical side of it. I mean, there's like stuff that Mary and Lauren do aren't, directly like cyber, but you're helping grow the community and helping grow the industry and doing stuff where you're bringing kids in. That's even a valid path in cyber. I mean, it's got broader applications to other industries, but Lauren didn't start in cyber. Mary obviously didn't start in cyber, but now they're in cyber and helping grow this industry. There's all kinds of other stuff. So I would encourage the youth, like if you've got a talent for doing marketing stuff, or you've got a talent for administrative stuff, and you want to be in the cyber industry to help an important industry grow, look at that as well. I don't think that's a direct part of, unfortunately, probably something we might have missed in setting this agenda, but it's like there are people that help this industry grow and do a lot of work in the background that you don't see every day. Lauren comes and produces this podcast all the time. She's always sitting in the background. Nobody sees her. Every once in a while, we draw her to the front. Mary is, out there getting all of the hard work done and getting those events done. These are all also ways that you can get into cyber. So thank you, Arthi. Ray, as far as this area goes in Houston, again, we serve a national audience, but this is starting in the Houston area. We not only have a lot of startups, we not only have a lot of VCs and things like that. There is a ton of education, you being case in point, but on this podcast, but a lot of education in the area in cyber, not only in high school, but in the higher education levels in community colleges and in universities. Can you talk about like your experience and some of the people you know, and maybe talk about a little bit, and we can kind of discuss it on what we're doing from an education council standpoint within YOUTH.SEC.CON as well.
Yeah, I mean it's really like you said, like there's a lot of stuff happening on the education space, and when I think about the way cybersecurity awareness, and not so much in the field of cyber, but the awareness that hey, there's a field of cyber pathways that people can learn, from students in the high school to even adults. It's incredible to see the way it's evolved just in the last few years. I mean, when I was in high school, security wasn't really much of a path option, or especially not even cyber. Even when I was in college, cyber was not even an option. Now I'm kind of jealous because like a lot of programs out there have all these cool cyber programs and these cyber defense, areas of getting the skill set. So yeah, here in Houston, I mean, there's a lot going on where a lot of high schools and even some high schools are that don't have a program here are building these programs, and the universities here local to the area and surrounding areas and even outside of Texas are building more into these programs. So it's something that we're really trying to work and partner, collaborate with many different universities, high schools to see what is the best way to approach this. How do we get more engagement? How do we get better partnership and interest with these programs in cyber for students? Because today kids they use a lot of technology already with the mobile devices, the iPads, their computers. They're already using ChatGPT. Young kids, my 8-year-old has already figured out how to get around some controls of the computer from the school on accessing YouTube. That doesn't work, and then it works. She is able to kind of figure it out somehow. So, and so when I see some of these things, it's something like, okay, you got to know the appropriate way of using these technologies and understand the consequences it can have if you do something wrong or use it for the wrong intent. And another thing I see that just common is many people think that, or people in an impression, in general, students and adults that you have to be in a cyber field or you have to study cyber field to get into cybersecurity. That's not the case. So yes, if you start in a cyber field, that can help you in that path where you will learn a lot of new areas to get into different domains of cyber. But you don't have to be a cyber degree specialist if you're in your 20s, your 40s, your 50s, or your early, you're young. Anyone can get into cybersecurity field. It's just a matter of knowing, understanding what are you interested in, what do you think you will like, how do you explore that, and the skills that you have are already transferable to that field of cybersecurity. A lot of people can do cybersecurity. It's taking that concept and thinking, okay, put on your security hat and think of how would you protect it, or how would, if you were a bad guy, how would you try to break into it? And knowing how they would try to do it, now you can think about it. Well, then this is how I can protect it and do things like that. So it's a growing field that there's a lot of things out there to help us learn and understand what we can do, and ways to understand an ethical approach to just gain more knowledge and be able to go through it. The programs that were coming up for that meeting that we're gonna have next week is something that's gonna be very interesting to see how it morphs into more partnership and collaboration with different universities and support.
Thanks, Ray. So, I mean, we've talked a lot about the what and the why, but we need to talk about the what. Excuse me, we need to go back and talk about the what. So, Arthi, maybe can you explain who's it for? Who's YOUTH.SEC.CON for?
Absolutely. Youth.SEC.CON is for youth, high schoolers, grades 9 through 12. As discussed earlier, for this year, it will be a one-day in-person event in Houston during the first day of YOUTH.SEC.CON. So I think it's the last day of September this year at the George R. Brown Convention Center. And we have limited spots. We definitely do want to try it with a small batch of students. And without going too much into the details, the high level agenda will involve like a career panel where students will get to hear from professionals, industry professionals, and executives who are at various fields and various levels of cybersecurity experience to give that the breadth, not so much the depth, the breadth, like Ray mentioned, right? Give that exposure. And I think Mary touched on earlier, there's also like a college fair type thing where they can get to see what are the types of programs available. And I will leave it for Ray to explain on the hands-on escape room type thing. So it's like I said, a mix of theory, exposure to what's happening in the industry, some college things, college readiness applications on cyber programs, and hands-on experience for cyber.
Yeah, so like if anyone in the audience, have you ever done like an escape room where you have these themes of trying to escape or get out of that, whatever that theme is, some adventure or horror, whatever it is, those are really fun. So we're trying to take that kind of concept, that idea with this, and I've done an escape room that's cybersecurity and hacking related when I did a training with the CISO, their OT security training with the blue team and red team. That was a great awesome experience going through that process. So just kind of taking that, like kind of seeing how that was, and then going through your own general escape room. We're thinking, this would probably be a good opportunity for the YOUTH.SEC.CON to kind of have something like that. Now, it probably won't be as very advanced and technical, but it'll be enough where it does give some exposure and some interest of different things that you can run into, and a way to make it fun. Some of these things in cyber, like and I think that's very important, is how do we get kids engaged in something that would be a great field to get into, but it's not like a boring field, or they think, oh, I'm just on a keyboard, or I'm just doing this and looking at, I don't understand what that is. It's ways to make it fun. So you want to make it engaging and supportive, and a way to they can try different things, but simple things to start off with. This is the first time we're doing it, so we'll see how we're going to do it. But I'm sure as we get more interest and this grows, it can even evolve into something much more bigger and more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think honestly, probably the most honest people there will be the kids, right? They'll be like, this is horrible, or this is great, or I did this last week. Why are you doing this? That kind of, I want to hear that feedback. I'm really excited to hear that feedback so we can improve it. This is, it's a bunch of old people trying to get these youth excited for stuff, and they really know what it's excited them. So I'm really excited to see what they come back with and go, this is good, this is bad. So thank you, Arthi and Ray, for running through that. The parts that have really got me excited about, I keep saying excited a lot, but I am excited, is the things like the youth, the college fair, getting them exposed to those folks, getting them exposed to what cyber really is about. Yeah, we're going to have the hands-on thing, but I think a lot of people, including most adults, think that our industry is just a bunch of really cool screens and things flying all over the place and countdowns and, things flying across the map and all that stuff. And while this will be hands-on and it'll be fun, at the same time, I think it's going to get them some real idea of what this is about. And I think all those people talking about it in their careers, like if they're doing analyst work or they're doing that, sometime analyst work is looking at screens all day long, trying to figure out what's what, that analytical mind that you have to pull out some of those patterns. Even though some of the AI things are getting that, are helping that, it's still, I think, a fun but a realistic view of what our industry is like. And if you come to YOUTH.SEC.CON as a kid and you look at this thing and you go, man, I don't want to do cyber, I think that's a positive too, right? You move on to something else. Not everybody is going to do this, but I think the exposure is going to be great. Sam, what takeaways do you have?
Yeah, so I think the other piece here, analytical skills were mentioned, soft skills were mentioned. So, having these kids walk through the exhibitor hall, right, which is a big part of our hacker or cyber culture anyway, right? Doing these conferences and all the cool stuff that goes on. Yeah. So not only to learn about the new technologies, but also to visit the village and all the cool stuff that you can do in the village, right? And learn how to pick a lock. And, depending on the other activities we'll have in there, we'll have other things for them to get their minds around and different. And every single thing there has to do with developing your analytical skills. So, those are going to be great things that they're going to come away with as well. And maybe a few really cool swag stickers or whatever else our awesome sponsors are handing out.
Oh yeah. Sponsors always give very cool stuff. I used to bring all the stuff back from the conferences to my kids. Now the kids get to get it directly from them. They don't have to worry about their parents bringing all the stuff home. So, all right, we've talked about how we got here. We've talked about why we're doing it. We're talking about what it is. Mary, it's your time to shine. You're the one that's having to put all this stuff together. So, go through some of the logistics and FAQs for us, if you would, please.
So to register your students for this, we kind of have a couple of different ways. The first way is if you are an attendee for HOU.SEC.CON, you will just go to the YOUTH.SEC.CON link on HOUSTON.SEC.CON.com and register your child with you'll need your confirmation number from your HOU.SEC.CON ticket. If you are a school group or a group who is not an attendee but wants to bring a group of kids, which we encourage you to also do, we will have all of that information for you guys in the show notes, as well as linked on our website under FAQ, or you can reach out to me directly. We'll put all of that in the show notes as well. The last thing I wanted to mention real quick was our TAB Foundation, which is a scholarship program that we are able to expand this year. The TAB Foundation originally was created to help non-college bound students get cyber certifications. But because of this new partnership we have with YOUTH.SEC.CON and the surrounding universities, we are able to extend that to any high school student interested in pursuing a college degree in cybersecurity, and current college students, as well as those who are non-college bound and veterans. So we're excited to see you guys all out at YOUTH.SEC.CON.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary, for running through that. Really going to be a great time that we've just got. I see it as almost just the whole route to get into cyber. However you need to go about it. If you don't want to go to college, if you do want to go to college, if you're a veteran that's trying to get certifications, whatever that is, all of this aligned with TAB and aligned with the rest of the educators in the industry here in Houston and surrounding, and just all the professionals. It feels like kind of a little ecosystem that we're building here, and I would call it a community, and it's absolutely a community that we're building around cyber. And this is a great focus on getting young people into the industry and getting them interested in the industry. So, Mary, Arthi, Ray, any quick final thoughts from each of you?
Absolutely. I do want to give a quick shout out to Mary and Lauren. Lots of heavy lifting. A lot of people have idea. We have, but to make it work, make the website work, create the waiver forms, talk to legal, make sure, if there is a health emergency on site, what happens, who will take care, right? Who's protecting the kids, who's responsible for check-in, background check for volunteers. How do we plan the agenda so there's not too much mental overload, good mix of physical activity and, hearing stuff. All to say, lots of efforts are going on in the background to make sure your high school kids have a phenomenal, seamless, and very educational, inspiring session for that one day. So I do want to give a quick shout out to Mary and Lauren, and thanks for Ray for partnering, and to Michael and Sam for making this possible, for giving us this huge stage for getting kids on board so we can continue this legacy, right, for years to come. Again, to audience who are listening, your child, if they just have a little bit of interest in STEM field or cyber, they don't need to know coding or anything. They just have a little bit of interest on what their parents are doing or what they could do to make an impact in the world. Please sign up today. Expose your kids, give them this gift of great opportunity to be a part of something that can change their life for the good. I hope to see you and your kid at YOUTH.SEC.CON.
Yeah, I just want to add something really quick. So to something Mary mentioned earlier about the people and soft skills. I think that's very, very important. So really for the kids to come to this, they'll get some great experience, learn about some of the technical piece. They'll learn about, like what Arthi mentioned in our agendas, these panels, career discussions, options, what they learn. But it's not just the technical piece that they will get some exposure, it's the soft skills. And very important that really comes with all the work and effort that the educators do in the schools and what Mary's done also coming into the program. I think it's something that really helps students in many different areas. So it's a great opportunity to take advantage for the kids. Parents, take advantage of this to help your kids see if it's something they want to explore, and something that can really bring some insight into possible options for them in their career path.
Awesome. Mary, any parting thoughts?
I'm just really excited that I get to be a part of this. This is, it was sad for me to leave the classroom because I loved my students so much, but to be able to be a part of the groundwork for this, and creating even more opportunities in an even larger community, to help kids find their passion, and, find their pathway is really near and dear to my heart. So I'm excited to be able to be a part of this. I'm excited to, meet these great kids who are thinking about cyber and helping them, with their futures.
I don't think I am overselling to say that your education background has been a major reason we're able to pull this off. And I love the passion, Mary. So thank you for being a part of it.
Of course.
Sam?
Let me spout the old. I could spout the old person comment of, well, these kids these days have it easy, right? So we had to go through all the hard stuff, uphill 2 miles in the snow, back and forth. No, I mean, you and I come up with a lot of harebrained ideas at times, and it really takes, literally takes a village to make these things happen. So I really appreciate all of you stepping up to do something that's very, very important for the community, for the entire industry, quite frankly. So thank you. Excited to see it happen.
Yep, very excited as well. And I will key off of something very tactical that Arthi talked about. We are going to keep your kids safe. We have got like teachers who have been in this industry or been in the teaching industry for a long time, outside of just Mary, like people who've retired teachers and stuff are going to be there to help keep your kids safe. We're going to have security there. So please feel or know that we're going to keep them safe, and we hold that as very important as well. I will add one final thing. If you are listening to this and you want to be a sponsor of this, we're looking for a couple of corporate sponsors to help run this. This is something that is not, we've talked about it. There's no cost to the kids to be there. We want them there. That's part of our community effort, but it would be nice to get some sponsorships for people who want to look at this or for companies who want to look at this as an effort to grow STEM fields and grow kids getting into cyber and growing this industry that literally protects our world. If you know somebody who wants to be a corporate sponsor, or you yourself want to be a corporate sponsor, please let us know. We'd love to be able to grow this in the years coming on. And I think having a partnership with some companies or some people who want to see that grow would be great. So please, we'll include all that contact information and everything in our show notes. Please let us know. Mary, Arthi, Ray, thank you so much for joining Sam and myself. Thank you for all your efforts. Cannot wait for this first YOUTH.SEC.CON and then all the YOUTH.SEC.CONs to come in the years. So everybody, thank you for joining us on episode 39 around YOUTH.SEC.CON, and we will see you soon on, Sam, if you can believe it, episode 40.
40. That's like middle age. That's incredible.
We passed the drinking age. Now we're getting into what's the term that
you're making me feel old.
What's that?
Making me feel old.
Midlife. We're going to get midlife crisis.
Yeah, we're going to have a midlife crisis. Yeah, let's hope not. Let's
we'll be wearing berets and driving gloves very soon. Not really. We won't do that. All right, everybody. Thank you. See you on episode 40.